Welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host, Ed, and on today's show, we're talking all about the current situation regarding Liga television rights in the United States. Before we get started, let me thank all of you out there who have subscribed to PSG Talk Extra Time on Substack. We really appreciate your support and hope you enjoy the content we've been putting out. We'll have a lot more coming up throughout the season, so make sure you subscribe today. All right, joining me on today's show is longtime contributor Marc Damon, and we've got a newcomer to the show, Mike McNally. Gentlemen, welcome to what I guess we can call a emergency episode because the situation regarding the league on television rights in the United States and really internationally has not been resolved. And this Friday, of course, PSG kicks off the Ligue 1 season against Le Havre. So, Mike, if you want to just introduce yourself to the folks listening out there, but I want to start with you. Pretend that there's someone who's been living in a cave, and I want you to explain the current situation that's going on right now. What are the executives that people should know? What organizations are involved? Who are the decision makers? And what is the latest that you're hearing? So there's a lot packed in there, but take it from there.
Yeah, thanks, Ed, and thanks, Mark, for allowing me to be on with you guys today. Yeah, I've been a PSG fan myself now for quite some time. My previous background is working I currently do still work in sports, but I worked in professional sports for quite a while. So when this whole media rights thing has been, we know it's been going on since back to the Media Pro days when this thing really started to break down. But this last iteration of it, I've been following really closely, as you know, and we've been chatting. And as this thing's been building up, we've seen the problems. And it starts for me at the top. It starts with the president, LeBrun of the LFP. He came out initially. He was looking to get, $900 billion is what he was stating he was going to get for $900 million, just shy of $1 billion for his domestic right deals, and had all these high expectations to do so. In doing so, he burned a lot of bridges. Obviously, Canal Plus, for anybody that has been over in France knows that's been the longtime broadcaster of this league. That fallout started back during the Media Pro fiasco that caused that break. And it's continued to today. Canal Plus refused to bid on these rights. So when these rights went out for bid, there was none. So as these bids kind of continued, he lowered his figures, being LeBron, lowered his figures from 900 to 700 million. Eventually, we know that figure came down to 400 million from DAZN, and 100 million obviously came in from BN. And then, of course, we'll get talking about those international rights. So now where you're looking at our media rights deal, we are further and further away from the other four big European leagues. For the longest time, we talk about the five biggest leagues that are in the world. And we've always said it's the EPL, it's La Liga, and then Bundesliga and Serie A, depending on how you want to put 3-4, and then there's obviously Liga. I contend now that Liga is falling further and further away. They're getting close to the 6 and 7. We're getting close to Portugal and the Dutch more so than we are the top four. And it's happening because of these deals. These deals are atrocious. And this last one was even worse. So that sets up where we are in the domestic deal. So DAZN holds 8 of the 9 matches in France. BN holds 1 match. And then they alternate selections from each match day. DAZN has set some fairly high prices. There's a lot of discontent going on in France right now in terms of that, and we'll see where that falls. Right now, there's a 2-year out clause in this domestic deal. DAZN is going to try to reach 1.5 million subscribers. I believe if they don't get that, they would probably exercise their out. I believe the LFP also has the option to exercise an out in there. So that's kind of setting where we are domestically. Do you want to jump in, Mark, and Ed on the international side first, or how do you want to go?
Yeah, I kind of want to talk just the domestic for a second, because I think that is a really good example, a really good test case of just how incompetent Ligue 1 really has been run over the last bunch of years. And I think you almost have to go back further to when and I guess maybe if you want to talk about this a little bit, the Media Pro disaster, where they sold their rights to a company that wanted to sort of create its own, I guess, network app whatever you want to call it, and it just sort of fell apart. Liga, they basically got hoodwinked into a deal that the company they made the deal with couldn't actually end up paying. So that by itself set the league back, and now I think it sort of puts you in the position that they're in now. So
correct. So the Media Pro deal, if we go back and look at that, obviously if it would have come to fruition, it would have put Liga on a different category altogether. That was a $3.3 billion or a 3.3 billion euro deal that was signed, that was supposed to start back in June of 2020. And obviously, as Mark very well pointed out, they did not have the capacity to handle that deal. That deal collapses. And if we all remember, when that deal collapses, there was a scramble for where are people going to see Liga, right? Where were the games going to be? Where were the games going to be shown? And that started the scramble. Obviously, Canal Plus steps in, helps bail them out. Obviously, beIN's been there. But that was a 3.3 billion euro deal that they had initially signed that never came to fruition.
All right, excellent insight. And I want to turn our attention to the international rights, because we are all based in the United States. And as I said in the intro, we don't know how we're going to be watching these games. PSG, they kick off the season on Friday. There is no legal option to watch PSG and Liga matches right now for us in the United States. So Mike, what is the background with international rights? If you want to talk about how they're different than domestic and negotiation, go in as much in depth as you need, but explain to people what's going on with international rights right now.
Yeah, so we knew last year that the international rights we were talking about it in the U.S., right? I know, Mark, I know you were talking about it, Ed, I know you guys were talking about it in terms of, hey, we're finally going to be rid of beIN Sports covering Liga. And I think we were all excited about the possibilities that we saw out there, whether it be Paramount Plus, or whatever it may be. We just saw, hey, there's a great opportunity here. As these domestic deals were dragging along, the international rights weren't moving. So they were focusing on the domestic deal, so the international rights were suffering from behind. Shortly after the domestic deal was done, and the domestic deal has been done now for what? I think, Mark, has it been about a month? Has it been a month? I think.
Yeah, it was pretty much the beginning of late July, early August.
Well, they kind of finalized it, but then there was like the out clause and who's going to air what games on what days. Like some of the fine details, right, kind of lingered on. But I think as of right now, it's been done. It's been done for at least a week, if not more.
Yeah.
So from those discussions, I started kind of digging in a little bit more selfishly, because I'm like, well, how am I going to watch these things next year? And I was trying to figure out where were these international rights going. So I, through lots of different various readings of French outlets and what have you, I discovered that the Infront agency in the Saran Media Group had acquired rights internationally. So essentially what it was reading was the LFP had sold off the ability for these people to then go and find who was going to buy the rights. But when you started to read into it, where it was talking about was these were rights that were in Asia and in Europe and down in Africa. So there was no mention of the United States. So you're starting to wonder, okay, what does that mean for us? Who's got our rights? We started to see that the potential of we'll call it the Liga channel, I guess, that they were talking about creating. What we were hearing there was the potential for it to land on Max, HBO Max version. I guess that would be BR Sports that they have on there, which would have been a decent possibility. But of course, that didn't happen. They went with DAZN, like we just said, and beIN for the domestic rights deals. beIN Sports sends out a press release about 2 weeks ago, and they basically herald how they're staying involved in the sport, how they're promoting the sport. And one of the things they mentioned inside their press release is they've obtained the international rights. So you're thinking at that point, okay, I guess worst case scenario, we're going to see the matches. We're going to see them once again on beIN Sports USA. beIN Sports USA, which we can talk about the absolute collapse of that station, where there's virtually no employees left there.
I think Mark's going to touch on that when we unleash him here.
Yeah. So we see now, okay, it looks like we're going to land there. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, this is great. We see the match that we have against Sturm. It shows up on there. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And actually going back a little bit, when the deal expired, I don't know if you all noticed, but when the deal expired, Liga programming on beIN Sports USA went away.
Yes, all those absolutely. It went completely away. I remember
all those 90 for 30s that we see in mass repetition. All that stuff went away. There was no representation at all.
But in its place, we did get bare knuckle fighting. So,
we got bare knuckle fighting, right? We've got what is it called? Paddle. We got all kinds of stuff on there. But it all went away. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I think, Ed, I was telling you at that point, going, something's not right here. Well, all of a sudden, right around the Sturm match, you're starting to see commercials again that are airing Liga stuff. However, it was old Liga stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe we're going to see this. Maybe they're going to be on there. So I started reaching out to some folks that, and I won't use their names, but I started reaching out to folks that call some of the games for Liga. I was told, don't worry about it, Ed. That's when I sent to you. Oh, no, you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have anything to worry about. Okay. So I'm thinking that's where it's going to land. Well, then we start to see all the channel guides, and this is where everybody started to kind of clue in the same thing. It's not showing up. It initially did show up in the channel guide, but it showed up as a conflict with the Turkish league, which is on beIN Sports USA. Was
it Saturday when we realized, like, crap, this really isn't happening? Because the guide did not have the game.
Well, because they took it off. So initially you saw it up there. It was there. I took a screenshot. There was the Friday Liga PSG Le Havre match was showing there. Then all of a sudden it went away. Then all of a sudden the header changed. Remember when I showed you, hey, they still have a Liga header. That's odd. Then the Liga header goes away.
And with Mbappe. They had Mbappe in the header.
And so not only is it not an old one, it's not a thing at all. So I reached out to another contact who is very close to this situation and someone that I believe to be very reliable. And I didn't know if I would get a response or not, and I did. And it was, meetings will be in the quote unquote coming weeks. And that's when I reached out to you going, we're in trouble here. Nothing's being done here. We're going to be in the dark to start this season. We're going to be in the dark. Well, then we start talking with other folks that are on our Discord channel. We find out the Netherlands are shut out. We find out India is shut out. And all of a sudden you start to think, wait a minute, everybody internationally right now, I think, is shut out. I don't think they've set up anybody internationally to see this product. And I'm going to let Mark jump in and talk about just the catastrophic nature of not being able to show this product. But that's kind of where we saw the development of this. So I know some people have pointed towards, maybe something will get done this week. The source that I have that is as close to this situation as it can be, and I'm just using the exact words, were a meeting is in the coming weeks. So I don't know if that's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
No need for any urgency. There's no games this weekend or anything. Please move at a glacial pace.
Exactly. So
no offense to your contact, but like whoever he's talking to, like let's move things along. Mark, you hear this from Mike, this inside information. Is your blood boiling right now? Like, what is your reaction to this?
Unfortunately, it's not surprising. It's really not surprising based on how this league operates and this just sort of lack of foresight, the lack of urgency that it is operated for and operated with for a very long time now. And you've seen it over, I guess, the last 5 to 7 years, but Liga has fallen behind, as Mike said, has fallen behind the rest of the European leagues. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. One of those being that most of the clubs in France are what you would call selling clubs. In other words, their goal is not necessarily to win championships or qualify for European football or finish top 4. Their job is essentially to sustain their existence. So before even worrying about winning or losing, the goal is to keep the club afloat financially. Because, and we'll get to this part of their TV deals have been so paltry compared to England and Spain and Germany. So you don't have the sort of level of competition because the clubs have to be selling clubs. They have to just essentially sustain their existence. And then you have a group of, and I'm trying to do this without cursing because I really don't want to make this into some kind of, late night comedy, F this and F that kind of deal. So I want to try to stay intelligent here.
Yeah. Don't go old school Arsenal fan TV on us.
I don't want to, but I'm going to be very harsh here. These people are morons. They are dullards. They are completely short-sighted and have no idea how to run a modern sports league. Let's just call it what it is. And in 2013, 2014, having your sports property on something like beIN Sports was okay. Because if we remember back to those times, European soccer and the domestic leagues were still sort of a niche boutique kind of product. So it was okay to have it on a niche boutique network, which is what beIN Sports is in the United States. I know in other places around the world it's more prominent. In the Middle East and Asia, beIN Sports has a larger footprint. But in North America, beIN Sports is basically one of those channels that you get with the sports package that you don't really think about. You buy on your cable provider, you buy the sports package and you get the NFL Network, NBA TV, all the, sports networks, and down
NFL
the list.
Red Zone, that kind
Red
of thing.
Zone. Down the list is like beIN Sports. It's like with like Willow Cricket or something like that. You don't really know that you have it, but you turn it on one day and you're like, oh, I have Willow Cricket. And you watch cricket for like 15 minutes and then you give up and turn the channel off. That's kind of what beIN Sports is in this part of the world. And it used to have, if you remember, La Liga, Ligue 1, Serie A, and the English Championship. And that would be as far back as, let's say, 2016 or so. I remember I was there. I was watching all those things on that channel. You had 4 or 5, top European leagues on beIN Sports. And then when those rights came due, you looked at Serie A, they left. You looked at La Liga, they left. The English Championship, very quickly, they left. Because it was obvious that if you were going to grow your league in the United States, you couldn't be on a boutique niche network like beIN Sports.
I believe La Liga bought out the rights. Like they just bought out of the contract because they needed to go elsewhere. They needed a bigger audience.
Yeah.
So they bought the contract out.
And you also know, and those networks knew, that the way to go is to go to streaming. And that's the way to go. Because you go back again, when the Premier League used to be on ESPN and it was buried on ESPN, then it goes to NBC, and NBC puts it on a channel called NBC Sport. I think it was the NBC Sports Network. And that it might have even been Versus at the time. But eventually, they decided to basically put it on USA and put it on NBC and put a lot of the games on Peacock. And you saw the sort of explosion of growth that the Premier League has had in the United States. Now, granted, Ligue 1 was never going to have that level of explosion because it's not a straight English to English translation, which is why I think the Premier League, and the money and the level of star power that league had. But I think because it was just easy enough for Nasser, Nasser owns beIN and there's a relationship there. It was easy for Ligue 1 to just stay where it was. And it sort of died on the vine on beIN Sports. And, it got to a point where beIN Sports no longer has advertisers. like if you watch the network for any length of time, they don't really have advertising. They basically just have in-network, in-house advertising for their own products. Mm-hmm. So their commercial breaks are, watch all this other stuff we have on beIN Sports, and then we'll bring you back to your scheduled programming. They have, the paid programming in the mornings that I guess gets them revenue. And This was a network that, again, that was still niche, but had commentators, Ray Hudson, remind me of the other guy's name.
Cordero, Phil Shane.
Phil Shane. They had legitimate Thomas Rongan.
Yep.
They had like legitimate people, like serious, like soccer people. And then all of a sudden, all of those people just started going away. And then we learned midway through the season that they basically abandoned their Miami studio, fired everybody, and essentially they're running it out of a warehouse in Mexico somewhere.
And they didn't tell anyone.
No.
They just, like, I think it was Phil Shane who someone asked him, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, this is what happened."
So that's where we are with that network. And I totally get why Liga doesn't want to be on beIN Sports USA anymore, because it's a complete disaster area. But it's amazing that that in the world's largest economy, which is the United States, it has top 5 population. We have 300 something million people. And over the last 10 to 15 years, and tell me if I'm going on too long. I'm going to transition in a second. If anyone please wants to add anything.
I did want to touch on the Premier League conversation, but finish your thought and then I'll jump in.
No, I'm talking too much. You go.
Okay. Well, you're just talking about how the Premier League got to be what it is today. And, it wasn't that long ago. I don't know, what was it, the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. If you wanted to watch a Premier League game, and I was a soccer fan, football fan, you used to have to get something called Setanta Sports. Do you guys remember Setanta? And you'd have to pay an arm and a leg, and you wouldn't get all of the Premier League games. You'd maybe get, just maybe a handful of games. And then you look at, and back then, the Premier League is not what it is today. You don't have these big fan fests and all that. What did they do? Mark, you already said it. They went to a real broadcaster who had a linear and streaming option, and they did marketing. We've all heard Ted Lasso. Do you know where Ted Lasso came from? It came from when they signed that deal. Ted Lasso was a character that they did for these little NBC promos for the league, and he turned into this massive Apple TV show. It has 3 seasons, I think. I don't know. But, like, that's what it takes. You need to be on a real broadcaster and do real marketing. There was a piece in World Soccer Talk with Ben Morel, who was I'm looking for his title, the LFP chief executive. Mr. Ben Morel said that Ligue 1 wants to connect with fans in a very different way than before, and that includes the U.S. broadcast deal, and we believe we are primed to be successful in the United States. There has been no marketing, despite the fact that they signed up with a U.S.-based marketing agency. It was a dire situation before all this, and we've actually taken a step back. They've taken a step back. All this like stuff that they keep saying that they really want to do, oh, it's prime, we want to be in the U.S. It means nothing because their actions show you they don't actually care. Mike, do you want to jump in here? Any thoughts on that?
No, I wanted to go back to some of the stuff that Mark was saying and what it used to be. Because remember, Mark, back in the day, beIN Sports USA would do live games. They would go over, not all the time, but they would do live games for La Liga. Like they were actually in Spain doing
for games. The Clasico. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so they would go and they were so much more than they are now. It got to the point where it was so bad here. I don't know if you guys remember. Remember last year they would play commercials in the middle of the half.
Yes.
What major league would ever show a commercial in the middle of the night? Do you think the EPL would ever just click off to a commercial?
The fans would riot. I mean, that is such a big no-no in broadcasting football. Like, you never see a ticker at the bottom because football fans are very particular. You don't show ads. You don't put a ticker.
It's devolved to the point where, and I think, Mark, you might have mentioned this on, maybe it was on your Twitter page or on one of the other broadcasts. we don't have pregame shows. We don't have postgame shows. We have nothing. There's nothing that leads people into the events. There's nothing that attracts people to stay and watch. It's just show the match, you get into it, and then it's over and you're right back out of it. There's nothing there. And then this past year, and no offense to the folks that are trying to hold this ship together, this was the Be in Mexico folks, because those were the guys that you were hearing trying to lead us into matches and take us out, because they had gotten rid of everybody that was there before. And it was just what they had done to the product was embarrassing. And they expect people to take this seriously. And what's sad is, again, they want to be one of these top 5 leagues. I'm sorry. The United States of America is not a place where you just mess around and do these things with. There's a reason why Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Man City, all these people are always here every summer. Every summer they come over here. Why are they doing that? Because they get it. They get that the money and the value that's there. And I do understand, and they would probably argue, hey, this international deal that Be-In signed was twice as much as it was before. It was $80 million before. This one was $160 million. So there's $80 million more. Whether that's Qatar throwing a bone their way, I don't know. So it is more. However, they're doing nothing to move this product forward. And the article you mentioned, Ed, talked about all these great things, all these things that would be exciting for everybody here over in the United States to follow this. Not a single thing in that article has come to fruition.
And it's the article is a year old, and you look at Wrexham, they're doing tours here. They've got the show on, what is it, FX or something, with their Hollywood owners. You see the crowds that Wrexham can draw. You see Bournemouth came over here. They've got a big following. These clubs, these mid to lower tier Premier League teams and championship teams, they get it. They're over here. They're promoting. They're marketing. They're getting in front of their fans.
Yeah.
And it's not just Ligue 1. It's also PSG. They're going to come here next year, but it's been like since 2017. Go ahead, Mark.
And I think that the thing with PSG, and this is sort of where I was transitioning to, I think PSG has done as good a job as they've done the best job of any Ligue 1 team, clearly, of at least making the attempt. Like, again, and this is 5 years ago, but they had legitimate people over here in New York who are trying to get a foothold in the United States. It was a skeleton crew. It wasn't always the best. And again, I talk about this a bunch, but I went to the one watch party they did for the Coupe de France final in 2019 at a rooftop sort of soccer facility in Brooklyn. And again, it wasn't the best thing I've ever seen in my life, but there were people that were at least trying to make the attempt. And I think to some degree, the pandemic sort of threw a lot of that work. So it sort of reset a lot of that work that was being done.
But there's been no watch parties since, right?
There's been not to my knowledge, there's been no watch parties since.
No attempt. There's been a couple of stores opened up. That's about all the effort we've seen.
And they are spending at least 6 figures a month on a store on Fifth Avenue and a store in Las Vegas on the Strip. So they've got 2 properties in the most expensive real estate areas in the country. That's a major investment financially for the club to do that. And we have fan clubs in New York, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in various other places in the country. And there is a fan base for Paris Saint-Germain in this country. There absolutely is. I've seen it over the years. The jersey sales, from where we started to where it is now, the jersey sales are, you could tell. You see kids with PSG jerseys. I see them at my job. It's not it's not nothing. There is an audience. There are fans. And I know PSG in this case is beholden to the LFP. And it's like, it can't just be one club. And I understand that PSG have tried to break into the Asian market over the last 3-4 years or so. And understandable, you can't really attack all of the markets at the same time. But if they're going to come to the United States and they're going to draw anything in that Club World Cup, they're really going to need to get television. And I think we're at this point where the LFP is like it's like PSG as essentially the breadwinner of the entire league. I really feel like has to step in and take control of this. And I mean, specifically, Nasser Al-Khelaifi has to take control of this because it's just no one in that league has the business acumen, the political stroke, or just the wherewithal in general to develop a plan and to understand that at this point, you've pretty much lost the battle here. You're not getting $180 million euros to broadcast in the United States. That dream is dead. And the goal really at this point needs to be to survive in the market. And I look at the potential suitors here. I think the more you think about it, I just think it's a dead end. I think it's that there's no, you might as well just not even bother at that point.
If Nasser gets involved, he's the president of BN. Wouldn't he want it for BN Sports? Like he wouldn't, or would he take it?
But the problem is they've completely divested from it.
Okay.
There's no investment in that network. I don't think Nasser cares at this point. Like, there's no, but like, okay, again, they're doing this out of a warehouse in Mexico. Like, they completely, it just became this money pit that they could no longer really bother to try to sustain. The logical choice, I think, is DAZN. And Mike, I think you can, I guess if you want to talk about the different potentials here. I feel like the other markets, the other potential suitors are saturated with content to the point where it doesn't really make sense for them to buy Liga. Like ESPN has too much sports as it is. Paramount has Serie A and the Champions League. They really don't need anything else. Peacock is the Premier League. Why would you want another league at that point? The Premier League,
a lot of Premier League teams buy French league players.
But that's not how business decisions are made. It's more like true. You want people watching the Premier League. You don't want to divide people's time watching this other league. The reason DAZN makes sense is because they have they have the Women's Champions League. That's the only soccer property they really have of any note.
And Apple TV, which you can maybe pick it up here. They were rumored for a little while. They've got Major League Baseball. They have Major League Soccer, which they have Leo Messi, and they're doing a pretty good job promoting him, which Liga did not do with just keeping him in BN Sports world. So just kind of talk about that. I mean, Apple TV, are they a real potential here? Where do you think they land?
I don't think they're a legitimate contender any longer. Obviously, there was the reach out because we know Apple's trying to build a little bit more of a sports portfolio. When those discussions were going on, I found them to be interesting, especially here for the United States. I think Apple was looking at a little bit more than a U.S. type deal. I think they were kind of looking at maybe what MLS had done. But there was some opportunities for some cross promotion here inside our country that might have helped move the game forward. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. I think Mark is 100% spot on with the other networks. I just don't see the ESPN Plus at this point in time, and that's not going to happen. Not to mention the fact, ESPN can't do anything other than bash this league from everything that I hear. Paramount Plus, maybe if Serie A didn't go back there, maybe there might have been a sliver of an opening. But at this stage of the game, our season starts in 5 days. Nobody's going to pony up any type of money if BN was going to sell the rights. And that's where we are now. BN would have to either sell the rights or sub-license these rights because they do hold the rights. So to me, inside the United States, if it's not BN, I fear it will be BN at the end. I feel that it's just going to go back there. It's going to sit there, and we're not going to move this needle forward. But I do think Mark is right. I think DAZN would make the most sense for the next couple of years and to start building from there. DAZN in Europe is much bigger than what DAZN is here in the United States. It actually is the station that has quite a bit of properties. I mean, you see, I think they have the NFL now on one. I don't know if it's in France. They might have the NFL, but they
they have it they definitely have it in
basketball.
France. They probably have it in Germany too, to be honest.
So they do quite well, and it's an English outfit. So they do well. They do well, and I think that would make the most sense. And as I said earlier, there is a lot of discontent in France because it's roughly €40 per month to get basically the big package. If you will.
Yes, and I'd like to make a comment about that when you're done. But
no, go ahead, Mark, jump in.
No, €40 a month is freaking insane. It's a totally insane price point for the league that they're trying to sell. Totally insane. First of all, France is not a football country like that. It's not England. It's not Spain. It's not Germany. It's not even Italy. It's just not the same. There's a reason why they've had so much of there's a reason why they can't sort of increase the price. There's a reason they can't really get $1 billion for rights in France. Besides their own incompetence, it's not as popular. And I think the national team's popular. I think the sport is popular. I think obviously there's a lot of talent coming out of France into Liga and into other leagues, but I just don't see it as it's not England. Let's put it like that. It's not England. So to charge these fans, and this is part of this too, the most hardcore fans of Ligue 1 teams are going to the matches. They're the ultras. They go to every match. They go to the home matches. They go to the away matches. They watch it in the stadium. So who is exactly paying $40 a month for this service? It's not the hardcore fans. The hardcore fans already go to the matches.
It's probably not that much more expensive to go to like a match.
They're going to the PSG Ultras aren't buying it because they're going to the matches.
Right.
So it's who's paying for this? And it's like it's a supply and demand issue. It always is a supply and demand issue. And when you have a product that doesn't have the interest that you want it to have, you have to sort of just swallow your pride and grow the game by giving more access to it.
You have to market it.
Start with access.
Yeah.
You have to start with access, and then you have to market it.
Yes.
When you basically put the product behind a ridiculous kind of paywall, there's just no way that you're even whatever marketing you have to do, whatever marketing you can do, it's like nobody's buying it because it's overpriced. So it doesn't matter what marketing you do. You have to, and this is the thing in the United States to just sort of focus this a bit. We as fans want to watch Ligue 1 and are willing to pay money to watch it. Look, if DAZN has it and I have to pay $200 a year to watch PSG, I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'll do it because it's the team that I love to watch, and I watch it every week, and I watch some of the other Ligue 1 matches too. There is a demand. It's not, 100 million people demand, but it's a demand. There are fan clubs across the country. There are fans of other clubs in the United States.
Lyon has a good following here.
Yep. So does, Marseille and Lille.
Yep.
And it's like, all we want to do is watch the product legally. It's all we want to do.
Yeah, I'm not streaming any games illegally. It's just not. I'd rather not watch. I'm not doing that.
Because we're just
Do that.
What's that, Mike?
No, I was just going to say, when you guys were mentioning the illegal streams, I don't know if you noticed today, but there was a report that came out that said that the Paris Judicial Court orders that ISPs to block streaming sites and IPTV services that are legally broadcasting Liga games. And when you read about DAZN, they actually do a very good job of blocking streams.
And it's interesting you say that, because if you remember when beIN Sports had, when they were broadcasting, I couldn't even embed a video, like a YouTube video on my site. Like, they locked it down. They didn't want you sharing any video clips or anything like that. And that's just not going to grow the game.
Right. So I think where we are right now, again, if I was a betting man, I would say 90% of me says it's going to land eventually back at beIN Sports USA for us here. What happens around the rest of the international markets is anybody's guess, just based off the fact that there are actual conversations that we know, at least what was told to me, that we know are going to take place. So there's something taking place. There are meetings taking place at beIN Sports USA to talk about Liga. Now, what happens moving forward, though, which is even more curious for me, is the Turkish League has started to assume a lot of the spots that we once had for Liga matches. So do they then go back to the Turkish League and say, we bounce you? I don't know how that works. But if you notice on their TV guides, on the beIN Sports live guide, I should say, those spots have a lot been taken up inside those areas. So, like, I think DAZN, I agree with Mark. I think that would probably be the best place for us to be right now. We've obviously taken major steps backwards. The damage is done. Yeah. We've got to get the product on, not just here in the United States, everywhere, right? Everybody needs to be able to see this. And my hope, and this is a tad bit different part of the topic, but my hope is on September 10th, the LFP presidential elections are happening. And there's a potential. There's a gentleman, I don't know him other than reading his bio, but Cyril Lynette, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. He is nosing around about a potential run against Vincent Lebrun for the president of Liga. Something needs to change there. I don't know if do you guys remember Vincent Lebrun's history?
No, break it down for him. I'm looking at a picture of him now. What's his history?
Vincent Lebrun was the president of OM from 2011 to 2016. He was then let go. And when he was let go, Le Provence, which is one of the newspapers down in that area, they said he's the worst president in the history of OM. And then what does the LFP do? They hire him as their president. So, I mean, that just speaks to the just complete level of incompetence all the way around in French football. It literally speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. I mean, Vincent Lebrun, you are always welcome to come onto the podcast. We would love to ask you some questions about this. It's just embarrassing. Mark, any thoughts on that?
Honestly, again, not all that surprised. It's just, this shouldn't be difficult. Like, I hear Mike talking about meetings being held. Like, I think we're beyond the point of having meetings. Like, I think this is just one of those things where what are you anticipating getting if you're Ligue 1 at this point? What do you anticipate being able to get for these United States television rights fees? The fact that it's been bungled this badly and that this wasn't done 6 months ago when it could have very well been done 6 months ago. You just have to shake your head and go, get a 1 to 2 year bridge deal, get what you can, and then try again in a couple of years and see if you can get something better. But where they are right now, they don't have any leverage. What leverage does Ligue 1 have with any of this stuff?
They have no Mbappe to promote. there's really no big star in the league to promote that anyone's like really lining up. Oh yeah, we want to show that player's games. You can sell the entity of PSG, maybe. Sure, there's lots of jerseys. There are some Lyon and Marseille fans, but we might be in a situation where none of the top broadcasters in the United States want it. It's not even worth $50 million to them.
Yeah,
they've got enough programming.
And this is my point you making about, obviously beIN is the fallback, but like for a network, like for a streaming service like DAZN, and this is the pitch I make, like DAZN needs content, because basically in the United States, DAZN is essentially a boxing service. That's pretty much what they have. And if you're going to charge people a lot of money for a service that essentially it's one, claim to fame is boxing and boxing pay-per-views, just getting a football league of any kind on their service would be beneficial.
But I go back to my tweet over the weekend or whatever it was, and Mike, I'll ask you this: like, I could watch the Scottish League. It's on Paramount Plus. I know they've got a lot of content. They've got some other things, but if the freaking Scottish League, again, no offense to Scottish fans out there, why is it easier to watch Dundee United or Hearts or Midlothian or whatever their teams are called? Why can I tune in and stream that no problem? But I can't watch PSG. Why don't I just go to Paramount and say, name your price, whatever you want to give us, we'll take it. Just please put us on your network so people can find us, and we'll market it from there. Why not do something like that? If the Scottish League, if it's good enough for them, why isn't it good enough for League One?
We can watch the Canadian League on CBS Sports Network right now. I say we can watch the Canadian League on CBS Sports Network right now.
This shouldn't be this hard. I don't know. It's like they have a product that not that many people want, or they don't want to spend a lot of money for it, and they keep holding out like, you're going to want it sooner or later, and it's never going to happen. And we're in the 11th hour now. Make a deal that gets you on the best platform possible. I haven't given up hope on Max. You mentioned earlier, Mike, about HBO Max was interested. That to me would be a really good platform, because they do have those linear options.
It would be a really good platform if they weren't losing $9 billion a year. That network is in that whole setup is in trouble. The last thing they're going to do is worry about spending league money to get league on. It's not even. They're going to cut more programming than they're going to add. But I just want to say this, as we can talk around this. We're about at an hour here, about 50 minutes in. When people can't watch the product, what will eventually just start to happen is you're just going to lose fans. And you can't be a fan of something if you can't watch it. Like, that's a basic rule of sports and entertainment. If you're dark in a region, people that would want to watch PSG or could watch PSG, they're just not going to watch PSG. They'll maybe watch it on YouTube or something, but eventually it's like the interest will just go away.
We're going to listen on the radio. It's going to be like the 1960s or something, or earlier. We're just going to be listening on transistor radio.
Not even it's like, it's not even that. It's just there's an opportunity here for, again, is Ligue 1 ever going to be the Premier League? No. But if you just put a little bit of effort into getting on a streaming service and showing the games and hiring some people to do some, shows and maybe do a pre and a post, whatever, just a little effort, you can have you can make even more. It's like, it's honestly like this league is allergic to making money. You want to know how to make money in America, make money around the world? Get into the sports business. Get into the live event business. You will make so much freaking money. Like, I'm watching WWE right now. They're making billions upon billions of dollars they're going to go on Netflix and make $1 billion just to be on Netflix. Like, the NFL makes billions of dollars. All the major sports in America make money. There are very few, if any, leagues that don't have some level of profitability of any note. And it's so easy to get on any kind of network. The freaking Dwayne Johnson's UFL gets on television. You have to be a complete just dumbass to not be able to make money doing sports. And Liga is like the one major sports league that I know that is actively trying to not make money. And it's insane. It's like, oh, we'll have a meeting in 2 weeks. Screw 2 weeks. What are we doing here? Like, no, why are we entertaining this? Why is this something that's acceptable? You wanted me to get hot. I'm going to get hot about it now.
Let's go.
This is totally unacceptable. It is totally unacceptable that you have
Mike, hold that thought, Mark. Mike, I think I heard you trying to say something. Jump in here real quick.
No, I said we're hoping it's 2 weeks because we are coming weeks, so we're hoping.
Mark, it could be 3. It could be 4 weeks.
Oh, again, it's no rush. We're just gonna. Yeah, they've just completely. They completely have no idea how to make money or turn profit or market. They have these, they have these beautiful stadiums that they built for the European Championship that no one goes to. They built a whole stadium in Bordeaux, and now they don't even have a friggin' team anymore. They let one of the top teams in the history of their league go bankrupt.
The club of
no
Zidane
one did anything.
Is now an
no one did
club.
anything. No one did anything to stop that. Seriously, imagine if like Arsenal were about to go bankrupt. Do you imagine that England would let that happen? They saw this coming for 10 years with Bordeaux, and no one did a goddamn thing. And they tried to get the people that own Liverpool to go in and buy this thing. And they couldn't even get that right. They couldn't even let Liverpool people buy it because the books were so bad that they went, oh, we can't buy this thing because the books are so terrible. And we're not even going to be able to make money off of this because they're millions of dollars and drowning in debt. So now you lose a top club. Your TV rights fees in your own country are so paltry that you have to jack up the price for people to buy a streaming service to watch your mid-level teams play each other. And no one wants to buy it. Your whole, you see the rebellion online about it. And you can't even do international distribution, which should be the easiest thing of all to do. You know what I'm saying? Because we're in 2024. Everyone needs content. Everyone wants content. Mm-hmm. Content is king. Just put content on. You see Netflix, there's 80,000 things to watch on Netflix. I don't even think Netflix knows what's actually on Netflix. I'm pretty sure there's stuff on there from 15 years ago that no one remembers that's just sitting there.
There's Emily in Paris.
That no one watches it. But it's there because it's content.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. And for some reason, as an entity, Liga doesn't understand that the whole point of their business is a content business. That's all this is. It's content. So make streamable, easy to access content, give it to as many people as you can to show, and then try to market the hell out of that content. We're making this harder than it needs to be because these people are dumb. They're stuck in 1995. They're stuck in an era where you had TV blackouts and no one watched the games on television. Everyone just went to the games. The only thing that matters is just it's a one large content factory. And all you do is just make content and shove it out there. And for some reason, we're talking about Liga and like it's not just any other content, which it is. And we want to watch it. And maybe there's 1,000, maybe there's 10,000, 25,000 people in this country maybe 50 to 100, who the hell knows? But it's enough where it's content and people will watch it. So just put it on any kind of streaming service. Put it on DAZN, put it on beIN. We don't care. We're just
we'll find it.
We'll find it. We'll pay for it.
Just put what can't happen is what's going on right now is it's completely unavailable legally. You cannot get it. It's impossible. I was going to jump in when you were going on that. I was just reminded of a great quote from the movie Home Alone, where Kevin's cousin says, "You are what the French call les incompetents." That's what they are, all incompetent, right? Like this is incompetence at the highest level all the way around. And it's causing clubs like Bordeaux to go down to amateur status. Who knows what other clubs could follow them? Get the damn games on a streaming service, a provider, something around the world. Get your product in front of people. Otherwise, clubs will die. Mike, do you want to jump in here with any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, the unfortunate thing, and I absolutely will play off from what Mark's passion was there. That's what Liga doesn't realize they have. They have passionate fans. We want to watch this. And for some reason, they don't understand that. And they're not hearing that. I mean, I personally myself fly over every year, make one trip a year to go over and watch PSG in person. That's a lot of money that I invest to go over there. But I do that because I love it. I love going over there. I love being part of the environment. And we have so many people, not just in the United States. We know from our board, we've got, Zakov follows the Netherlands, who just lives and breathes this. And it's just, when you get away from the anger, it's actually, it breaks your heart that they don't understand how much people do care about their product. And yes, we'll pay for it. I'm with you, Marky. If you throw it on DAZN and you tell me you're going to charge me $40, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to make it work because I want to watch it. I watch all of Liga. I say this all the time on our board. That's the first thing I watch. I'll be watching every Liga match before I watch anything else. I love watching the league. I love watching everything about it. And to fact that we are where we are, a week out from the season, and there is virtually no international rights, and it's pathetic. And on September 10th, if this Cyril Lynette wants to run for this thing, I sure hope he does, because he can't be worse. And for people in the United States who think like, whatever, is it a big deal? I don't know. We can look at the Pac-12. They couldn't figure out a media rights deal. And one of the largest conferences in collegiate sports is gone. It's dead. Who 10 years ago ever would have said the Pac-12 wouldn't exist? Nobody would say that. Nobody would say that. And I'm not saying Liga is going to die, but we do know that there were a handful of clubs that if a deal didn't, were on the verge of bankruptcy. So now we sign a subpar domestic deal, which is not even what it was in the previous subpar deal that they salvaged from the MePro fiasco. So we know that money's not good. So these clubs are just barely making ends meet. And here's an opportunity to grow your product. Bring in new fans. The Olympic Games were just in Paris, France. Was there a more perfect time for the LFP to try to cross-promote their product into this country? We saw commercials. I don't know if you guys watched the Olympics, but there were commercials flying around on Peacock left and right. Did they do anything at all? No, they did nothing.
I know we're going long, but it's important that this message get out to whatever reach we have, whatever stroke we have. I wouldn't dare to say that we're the voice of the PSG fan in this country. I think that's a bit of a step too far. We're close enough, I guess, to what it would be, but it's like, to just wrap this up, Liga has to make a decision at this point. You have to cut your losses and quit while we're behind. We're not ahead of anything. We're behind. Quit while you're behind. Get sub-license, put it on beIN, put it on their stupid app that doesn't work. Whatever. Just you're screwing over loyal fans of your product for no reason. waiting is not going to get you a better financial deal. If they think holding out is going to get them more money, it will not get them more money. It will get them less or no money or the same amount of money they were going to get. There is no theoretical world here where more time is going to help you. So quit while you're behind, cut your losses, get on American television, whether that be beIN Sports or DAZN or whatever stupid sports network will be willing to pay you whatever little money they can give you to do this, and do the right thing for the fans of your product. It is not just a French league. PSG, Lille, Monaco, Marseille, Lyon are all international clubs with international fan bases who care about the product just as much as the people in France do. So
one with an American owner. We have one with an American owner, Mark.
Yeah. Just quit screwing around. This is screwing around for no reason. There's no logic behind it. That's the thing that annoys me. There is no logic to this. There's no reason other than, well, apparently no one wants it, so that's nonsense. I'm sorry, that's nonsense. You can,
and I wonder how much is it just hatred towards Nasser, and they don't want to give it to beIN, and they're holding up for something else. You know how he's hated, especially if LeBron was at Marseille, and they don't like Nasser coming in and kind of running the conversation, even though he's the grown up in the room. I could see some animosity there, and them saying, "Well, look, we don't want to give it to beIN. We're going to find somebody else, and if we've got to take till mid-season, we will."
Again, to make this point, the only reason they got the deal that they got was because of Nasser in France. Let's call that.
And I think there's a little bit of bad blood. I think that they did do that, but maybe.
Oh my God! Somebody's trying to make us money. We hate that guy.
I'm with you. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
Does this make any sense to anyone?
No, of course not. No, it makes no sense.
It's illogical.
Well,
they're allergic to making money.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
End of story. That's my piece.
Well,
they're allergic to making money.
Well, we know they are, Mark, because DAZN's first offer for the domestic rights deals was $500 million. So the LFP settles for $400 million later. So.
Yeah, allergic.
You can't make it up. You can't. Their first offer was for 500 million euros for the rights, and then LeBron said, "No, I'm not interested in you." And then at the end, when there was complete desperation because Canal Plus refused to come to the table, he had to take 400. And then, of course, beIN threw in 100, which I'm sure they were throwing him a bone at that point in time. But
DAZN, beIN, whoever's out there. Whenever a deal does get done, and hopefully it does get done, if you need content, come to PSG Talk. I'm sure Mark, Mike, we can come. We'll do a pre-match show. We'll do post-game, whatever you need. We'll do it for cheap. Come to us. We'll make it happen. Don't worry about the content. Just get a freaking deal done already. Come on, guys. Amen. All right. Well, we're just over over an hour here. Let's get out of here and. Maybe we'll have to do another one of these podcasts once the deal is struck. But as of right now, fans in the United States are blacked out from watching any PSG or Liga matches. Very disappointing. So thank you guys, Mike, Mark. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all out there for listening and subscribing. Really appreciate your support. And we'll have a lot more on all things PSG next time. Mark, you want to say your thing?
Screw the LFP. Seriously. Screw them.
Bye for now.